Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researcher Celebrity. Today we have Dr. Alpana Dave with us. A brief introduction about Dr. Alpana. She has done her bachelor's in biotechnology from Manipal Academy of Higher Education, and then for master's and PhD she moved to Australia where she studied biotechnology for master's and for PhD in medicine from Flinders University, Adelaide, Australia. She moved back to India and joined a postdoc in stem cells at Calcutta University, and then did another postdoc in corneal diseases at LV Prasad Eye Institute, Hyderabad. And currently, she is Research Management Fellow at National Institute of Biomedical Genomics with the affiliation from DBT Wellcome Trust India Alliance and also established the Institute's research office there. With this brief
Yes.
introduction, I would welcome Dr. Alpana at the platform, saying thank you so much for taking time out.
And thank you so much for inviting me and actually for giving me this platform to talk about my experience.
Great. So we always start the conversations that how and when you decided to become a researcher.
That's a very good question. So I think it just happened as I proceeded with my career. When I was in school, biotechnology was still picking up in India. So that was something which excited me. And I was looking at different courses to pursue in that field. So that is why I joined the Bachelor's in Biotechnology at Manipal Academy of Higher Education, ours was the first batch actually for BSc Biotechnology there. And then from there we moved on. By the time I finished my bachelor's, they ended up having a collaboration with Flinders University where their students could get partial fellowship and could go to Flinders for their masters. So I thought that was a good opportunity for me to go out, study, and have the experience of going like that exposure was important. So yeah, then moved to Flinders for my master's. And as I progressed, finished my master's, I continued working in the same lab for a few years. And then PhD was something that that kind of grew as a part of my work. And that was something which was obvious way forward with how things were going. And luckily, I did get a fellowship for international students at the university, and I then continued on to do my PhD.
Great.
So
This is like we always talk about like how first batch in any discipline in any university is always courageous. It's a always a dice like how it will go, but seems like for you it went really well from
yeah,
there to Australia and for masters and PhD. So let's talk
absolutely.
about the first decision when you had this exposure of biotechnology in your bachelor's, and there was this possibility and opportunity that you can with using your existing collaboration with Adelaide, and then you can go to Flinders University. If you can share some of those, I'll say the guidance and the tips, how the students should look if they are thinking of moving out or doing their applications for universities abroad.
So I think for me, a lot of the groundwork was already done by the university itself. So because they already had like a new collaboration which was set up with Flinders University, and that they would be taking students from our college to Flinders for masters. So that I really did not have to go through doing the groundwork of which university I should go in and whether this is good or this is bad. This was more as a natural, organic way of how it happened. I would say I think a lot of support from my family was really important in taking that decision forward, even thinking about it and thinking that I could do it. That was from because of the support from my family. But otherwise, I think it was more organically it happened for me than and I did not really have to do too much background searches. But for anyone who's trying to go abroad for their future studies, I think they should really consider the cities that they would like to be in, because as you know, different universities offer different levels of fellowships. And also they need to consider the kind of uh, like the money it's going to cost them for the tuition fee, also for living there, because then it's not as common in India, but there, of course, everyone does a part-time job. I did a part-time job while I was working as well. And so those things are, of course, the monetary part has to be considered when students are taking that decision. Also, I think the stream that you are going in for is important. And the you need to think whether this is exactly what you want to take forward, because there is no point just going there for a couple of years, getting that experience, and then just not being able to take it forward in any way. Not there, not in India. So I think those things are important. It's you should by that time, I think the students just need to look at it in a as a bigger picture, and see how they want to see themselves in 5 years time, and then take that call.
Absolutely, and this is like a variety of things which they should consider, as you mentioned about cities, living cost, tuition fee, and doing part-time jobs, which is not very common in India. For students,
Not at
it's
all.
like till you are studying, just focus on your studies and everything is taken care of by the parents. But when you move the countries, that is one thing which plays a crucial role. Then you have to
Yes,
look for job opportunities. How about the
definitely.
cultural shock when you moved from India? Because in our researcher celebrity conversations, we do have researchers from all over the world, and this also is an important thing which came out that sometimes what happens is like in this enthusiasm and passion when researchers want to move out of India, they're like, okay, I'll go there, I'll do this, there, that will be fantastic. But within a week or month, they realize that it is tough to be there. And in some cases, within couple of months or less than a year, people actually come back to India because they were unable to sustain there. So if you can elaborate a little bit on that part of the shot.
Okay. So, on that front, I think I would say, because I was very young when I moved out, I had just finished my bachelor's. So I was really in my early 20s. So going there was not really a shock. It was more, that is how I learned to do research. That is how I learned the work culture. I think coming back to India was a shock for me, to be honest, because the work culture was completely different, how research is done was completely different, and I had to learn a lot. Like apart from switching just the country, the like, country switch plus the kind of research atmosphere uh, shift. The topic, the kind of work that I was doing was completely different. The environment was completely different. So I think that was a shock. But I think on a positive note, that it is all a learning experience, and one really needs to be like, I think over a period of time, if you are in research, and especially over a long period of time, you learn to be perseverant and to be consistent with what you're doing. And that is all that is needed to get through any shock.
That is so
So that is, yeah.
perseverance is the key. Either it is research or any other field you are working
Mm.
in.
Yes,
That's so
yes,
true.
absolutely.
So let's talk about. So you did bachelor's in India, where I'm not sure like how much you were exposed to research, but in Australia for master's and PhD, it was a full-blown research. When you came back and you did your postdocs in two different places, you did mention about the difference in work culture, about the research atmosphere. If you can, share some of that how it went, the journey for your PhD in Australia, and then the postdoc experience.
Sure. So, to be honest, I have absolutely loved my time in Australia doing research. That is how I've learned everything about research, be it most of the good things, not the bad things. But everything that I've learned is from there, how it should be done, how things should be organized, how grants are managed, which is something that is now in my current role. As compared to, and there in Australia, I was in a university. So I'm not, I think you would know that back like in Australia and also probably in US, it's the same that universities are known for good research compared to research institutes. It's better to be associated with the university for research purposes. However, I didn't know that, and in India, because it's the opposite. So research institutes are places where there is better research that happens compared to universities. And as you know, I was unaware of that. I did not have any friends who were in India who could actually tell me those things. So I got a DBT Research Associate Fellowship, and I chose to be associated with the university lab and whom I work there. So the kind of work culture was very different. There was a lot of paperwork which needs to be done, and like back in Australia, those things were all taken care of by all the support staff which was there. However, here I had to do all the paperwork, everything from running from one office to the other, and all those things. So that the administrative load became much more compared to the research work. So that kind of was a switch. That, as I said, that everything is a learning experience, and that was kind of the switch for me. That I think there are a lot of very good researchers in India, very good brains in India, but I thought it would be better if I could contribute to the management part of the research to make it easier for them to do good quality work rather than trying to be again in the same stream of academic research and trying to push it through. So that was the reason why I actually started getting interested in research management after I came back to India. And yeah, how things happened after that.
Yeah, so this brings us to the next point of networking. Like in your current role, that is one of the most crucial points where you help them to do this. And for the audience, I'll say that networking is important both ways, as Dr. Alpna mentioned, that either when you are moving out of country, like from India to somewhere else, you need a very viable network where there are people to help you in initial settlement, or making you acquaint with the new climate, atmosphere, or the culture also. But the same thing is true, and we have seen this more and more now, that when people leave at early age for their master's, PhD, and after spending 5 to 10 years outside, it is a little bit like more than a challenge to establish themselves back in India, although it is the home country. But because of cultural in ways of work, the way work experience and the environment is there in the other countries. The good part here is like now in India, premium tier institutes are coming up with the similar, fashion of work environment, work culture, where you don't have to do a lot of paperwork, just focus on your research and do that. And I believe in your current role, that is what you are also establishing at the institute. That okay, you are supposed to focus on your research, just focus on there, and rest we'll take care of that. You need the guidance, we'll do that. So now talking about the role of networking, how you navigate this to the researchers who are like doing PhD in the institute currently, or the postdocs for their future avenues, how you help them to prepare.
So currently at the moment, like my role is not really engaging too much with the students for with regards to their future career perspectives. But we definitely do keep help organizing all the seminars and talks by a lot of people from abroad as well, and also from different research institutes in India. So I think that is also a good opportunity for the students. And there is always, whenever we have a visit, there is always a session which is set out for the students to interact with the speaker. So there's an hour or so which is set out for the students to come out and talk about their questions or just have a one-on-one kind of a meeting with the speaker. So I think that is the way where we are trying to help the students also know about the different kinds of research streams that they can move to, how they can move from biomedical sciences to physical sciences or to chemical sciences, how these are all interlinked. Because now, how with how ecosystem in India is developing, it cannot really afford to just be associated with only one biomedical sciences. You will have to have collaborators in other streams as well, so that the story that you build up is solid, and that is how you will be able to take it forward. So yeah, so I think it is more encouraging them to come forward and bring their questions forward and also interact with these visitors who come through. That is how we encourage these students to do it.
Yeah, great. And this is for all the PhD students who are listening to this conversation, that you have to develop this habit, how to make the most out of these scientific meetings. Either there is a talk in your institute or a visitor, or you are going to a scientific conference or workshop. These are the places where you network, where you probably most of the time you meet with your prospective advisors. Either it is for a postdoc or it is even for a job, because people do join industry after their PhD. So these are the places where, instead of just enjoying the food and the tea breaks, coffee breaks there, you should also try to network in a way, because that is one of the basic concept behind all these events. When Dr. Alpana and folks in the similar roles are, creating these events for you, this is what they want. So please try to focus on that, and this is for your bigger help in a longer way. But for the early faculties, when you are helping them with preparing the grants and helping them making the budgets and all this, because one thing which I have had these conversations with celebrities, that in during their postdoctoral research also, not many of them were trained as an advisor. Okay, so now when you're doing your postdoc or any that, you are just focusing on your research question, doing your experiments, writing manuscripts, and that's it. But and up to a certain extent, writing a grant. But still, the major part is about budgeting when you are asking for that. The main advisors, some of them they train their postdocs really well, some of them they just take care of that, missing this, that they are giving this lacuna to the postdoc who is trying to be a faculty soon, now have to struggle with that. And I believe the research management office plays a crucial role in helping these early faculties. So your experience with that and your guidance for the early faculties or the postdocs who are going to make this transition soon.
So I think because all my research management experience is in India. So I would say for the different funding agencies that you are applying for, they all have their specific office orders and OMs which are released by the funding agencies. So basically, we have to follow them, and that is, we cannot deviate from what is stated in those ones, whether it is for a research personnel that you want to include in your budget, or for overheads, or for the travel that you want to include in your budget. Of course, for the equipment and consumable part of it, there are a lot of for the consumable of it mainly comes from the PI, what is the kind of research that they want to do, and then they can get the quotes for equipment. Also, there are different grants in India which have that restriction depending on the total amount that is sanctioned, whether the equipment can be included in it, or whether the funding agency is going to support it, or the institute that is getting the grant should support it. So I think there those clauses and things. It's important that if someone is planning to apply for a grant, they should really go to the website for the funding agency and go through all the different forms which need to be filled in. I think a lot of times I found that the young faculty members, they have they at the last minute they find out, okay, this is something new that needs to be filled in and we need to get this signed and everything. So that those are the last minute glitches which keep coming. And I think to be well prepared, always just go through the portal. There is all go through the portal and it will all list out all the different forms and stuff which need to be filled in, and just make sure that you have everything in place and prepare everything and give the research office, if you have that in your institute, give them at least a week uh, to get things processed and get them administratively approved for your submission in time. So yeah, that's my take on that.
And this is something which we always encounter. Like, no matter how futuristic we are, how optimistic we are, we always try to keep things like, as you mentioned, some of those forms which were not seen till the last moment, because people are so much focused on the research questions on the main grant, but there are these associated forms, the annexure XYZ, which are always there, and then at the last moment, oh, we haven't filled this one. So for all the early faculties, even before thinking of submitting a grant, first you always have these agencies in your mind where you are going to submit the grant. Have these annexures always with you, so that until unless, because there is always something they add up at the last moment, that is a different thing. But you should be prepared from your side, and also, as Dr. Alpana said, give the research office time to help them, because you are probably submitting one or two grants and they have like 20 PIs who are submitting two each, so 40. So think about their workload also, although they are there to help you. So if it is always good to be mutualistic, you get benefited, they get benefited, instead of just dumping all the work on them and they have a lot to do. With this now, we'll talk about, so you have experienced research in two different countries and might have traveled a lot more than that. In India now, we are starting talking about women in STEM. Your experiences as a postdoc, as early career student, and then now how things have been changed, and according to you, what are the things which a researcher, happen to be a woman or girl, needs to be well prepared and aware of?
So there are a few things. So there are a few things which need to be kind of taken care of. Begin with, um, definitely in India, this has been well acknowledged that there is a leaky pipeline, and that although we know that even at our institute, we have not many research fellows and PhD students who are girls. But as we have within our faculty members also, we see that there are fewer women who are at the faculty member stage. So there is we see that at our institute, and I'm sure that is the same at all the different research institutes across India. So there is a leaky pipeline, and that we need to be aware of that. I think the problem here lies at the time when most of them have finished their PhD and they start to focus on their personal life, which is, of course, that should happen. The PhD takes away so much of your time and effort that you completely forget that there is anything beyond it. And once that finishes, then you're like, oh, I've completely missed out on this part of my life, which is fine, which is, of course, that is how it should be. But I think for girls who are out there, they really need to be, as I said, again, persistent and be consistent and just have the faith that you are not alone. And there are a lot of other women across who are struggling to make it through each day, but you just have to keep pushing yourself and move on to the next day, because with family responsibilities and with your professional responsibilities, it becomes a little tough. But uh, you really have to find the best way out, how you can kind of merge both of them together so that none of them is there is nothing called a balance. You just have to sometimes work takes up and sometimes your personal life, and you just have to make that call at that time. Saying that the government has definitely increased a lot of these fellowships for women in India to encourage them to continue uh, with their research in STEM. So there and there is a like there are a few fellowships which are specifically for women who have not been employed for at least a year and they want to come back into workforce, which is very nice. Only thing is that the women also have to have that in them, that this is what they really want to do. Because in especially in research, it is hard. It is really demanding and it takes a toll on you. But you just have to push through. You just have to push yourself to get through the tough times. And then there is once you cross that bridge, then you'll be okay.
Absolutely true. And I think the more and more opportunities which government of India is giving, and so that they can motivate all those brilliant researchers to come back and do excel in the field, because there is a striking difference in the number of this active generation of PhD students and the PIs. You see this striking difference, as you mentioned, that the ratio is not same on the both the sides, which I believe is the shortfall of uh, 40 years or 30 years ago, how the scenario was in India, which is improving. We all should be happy with that. Now, we'll take some time for discussing the alternate career opportunities, because as you mentioned, that researchers are not known for the communications. So they are very good in telling people of their own field or expertise that what they are doing research on, and sometimes they do struggle with communicating with the general audience. And I think that's where the role of research communications in any institute become even more crucial, because they are the people who are going or helping them to go get funds, not only from funding agencies but also from the philanthropists. So if you can tell a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. Over the past few years, from the time that I moved to research management, research communication is something that I really love and I'm really passionate about. I understand when you say that the scientists are not very good at communicating their research, because I do take care of the social media handles for our institute, and I have to reach out to all the PIs as soon as I come to know that if they have a new publication or if there is some interesting work that has come out from their lab. I reach out to them that do share it with me what you have done, and what comes from them is really hardcore scientific language, and I have to sit with it for a few hours to kind of just break it down into something which would be easier, which is more palatable,
Hmm.
so to say, for general public. So yes, that's definitely one thing. And also, as you and all these the publicity definitely has to be done when you're talking about the research of the institute and stuff. It really has to be down to a layman's language so that they are able to understand, so that it's not just scientists, it's also we are being a government institute. At least for my institute, I can say that being a government institute, we also have to give it back to the society and have the students, to encourage the students to come into science, to join the different science streams and stuff. They should be able to understand what we are doing, how we are doing it. So those things I think are really important. And science communication also is slowly picking up in India. There is a very, it becomes a really niche field in otherwise, especially in India, there are very few people who are into it at the moment, and I'm glad I know a few of them at least. who are in the field, and they're really good at the work that they do. But yes, so the awareness still has not gone down to different levels in India. It's still it will take a few more years for because I think research communication should be a part of every institute or university, so that 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 wing should take care of everything for their outreach activities or for the communication or for representing them for developing the publicity material, etc. So I think that still we are a few years away from that, of having that science communication wing in every institute or every research institute. It will slowly come as it becomes more popular. But yeah, I think we are on the right track, and we just have to keep encouraging our scientists to just talk about their research a lot more, and also to talk to the students actually, to so that the students also know what are the different streams, as you said, talking about the alternate careers. This is also um, a very viable option for these students to take it forward. Also depends on in India, of course, maybe sustaining by itself may be a little hard right now. Over a period of time, it might get better. But because, as I said, there are very few people who are working in the field, so it is always good to have more science communicators joining in. But and it will slowly become more popular, I think, within the students as well.
Absolutely. And this
Again,
is
yeah.
where we do discuss that every student and every researcher during their PhD or research work, they always do the SWOT analysis of the research program. Okay, what are the strengths, weakness, opportunities, and all. But also, what I suggest is if you think that you enjoy your research, but you enjoy talking about your research a little bit more, so these are the things which you can have in your mind even while doing your PhD, because one of the important questions in the starting of these conversations, which Dr. Alpana mentioned, that what you are going to do with your degree is very important. That why are you even committing for a PhD or a postdoc if you are not sure what you will do with this or where this path will take you? That is one thing which is very important. And once you have this thing in your mind that, okay, communication is your strength and you enjoy research, probably you don't want to spend your rest of life on the bench or on the computer. Probably this is what you really want to do. And now with the opportunities coming in India like this, you have this viable option. And probably if you are doing a PhD, you are at the best stage of this, because by the end of your PhD, there will be plenty of opportunities, because that is one of the things which is as of now seems like limiting factor, but in future we hope that will be gone off. Now, towards the edge of this conversation, I would like to ask one thing. Like we did talk about all the wonderful part of, research, the journeys and everything. How about going through that tough time, which is a lot of time in any researcher's life, when the things are not working well, and it brings stress from personal as well as professional life? How you have dealt with it, and then now is in research communication, how you will suggest that the next generation can, have some learnings from your experience.
Right. So yes, of course, through the journey of from PhD to postdoc, moving countries and different work environments and everything, definitely there are different challenges which come through. I think in tough times, you just have to remember to keep working at it. Um, and this too shall pass. And it is only after a year or two, when you look back, you will realize that that time has actually changed you. And you have learned so much during that time that it changes how you look at things after that. So I think, again, it's just to put your head down in those times and just keep working at it, whatever you're doing. always try to think how you want to take things forward and focus on manifesting those things. Once you start focusing and put all your energies towards something, I'm sure they will happen. You might just go through tough times, but they will definitely happen over a period of time, but you just have to keep at it. So yeah,
Absolutely.
that's my.
And I think, as you rightly said, that over a period of time, after 1 or 2 years, you will laugh on the things which you are crying today. So these are the things which are making you what you will be in the future. So be very, your observations is the key, not only for research, but for any other field, wherever you are working. And if you are seeing that what are the things which are causing the trouble, you learn how to troubleshoot. That is more than half of part of the research challenges done. If you know how to troubleshoot those, sometimes it is even about maintaining the work-life balance and all. We did talk about a little bit in this conversation. So you have to make those calls. Sometimes you have to pick work, sometimes you have to pick family, and that again is case by case basis. You know where you want to go and what makes you happy, and you're prioritizing things in research in anywhere is the most important part. And you might not make the best call every single time, but that's again,
Mhm.
this is what you learn and how you develop as a person.
Absolutely. 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 It's all about trying to integrate your work and your personal life, and how well you integrate it is how successful you are or how happy you are to be.
Exactly. We always say that do whatever makes you happy and research. If that is the thing, then you never, you know, cry about it most of the time. Like, yeah, cry will be part of it. And we always say that if you feel like crying, there is nothing wrong in that. It is just an emotion like laughter. It really,
Yes.
it actually works really good for some of the people. So why not? It's fine.
Yes, yes, that reminds me of my PhD supervisor, because I remember I was towards the end of my PhD and I was writing and I was finishing up my experiments and everything. And there was one fine day when I just walked up to her and I was like, I'm not able to do this anymore. This is not working out. And I just started crying. And after a minute or two, she just started laughing. She was like, yeah, no PhD finishes without crying. So I think you are close to finishing your PhD. You'll be fine now.
This is always like I know, like my PhD supervisor, Professor Tia, Dr. Tia, that I have seen boys and girls coming out of his room crying all the time, and I was the one who always, while entering, I was laughing, while coming out, I was laughing. I still shared the same laugh with him. But then again, I think it is person to person basis. With this, we'll say to all the audience that if you want to write to Dr. Alpana, you can write to her. If you want Empowering Science Foundation to put you in touch with our researcher celebrities to help you or to guide you or to mentor you, whatever the way you want you seek their help, we are there to happy to connect with you with them. And with this, we'll say thank you so much, Dr. Alpana, for sharing the journey and igniting the next generation of researchers, helping them navigate their path to their success.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Raja, for inviting me and talking to me about my experience. I hope that your viewers do get to learn something new, and I'm always happy to help if they need any help from my side. I'll be happy to if they want to get in touch. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So,
Thank you.
for all the audience, will say stay tuned for more episodes of Researcher Celebrity. Only thing which we say, if research happen to be your passion, we are there to help you, to give you wings so that you can fly and achieve the success you seek for. The only thing is never give up attitude, because keep your heads up. The challenges what are coming, you will overcome them. As Dr. Alpna said, this too shall pass. So just stay positive and enjoy your research. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Alpna.
Thank you.